Our next reader has read to our family for a long time, and she's a wonderful dramatic reader, and I'd like to introduce my mother, Polly Murray.
Hello, hello, hello. It's singing a little.
It'll be all right. Just go ahead
Okay.
and
All right,
we'll
I'll try
adjust
to
it if we
talk
need
loud.
to.
All right. This title of this is called Our Comical Neighbor Perry. That's Duke's neighbor. My father built our house some 10 or 12 years before I was born in 1925. It was a good house with a nice front porch and swing. We had a living room, a dining room, a kitchen, a back porch on the first floor. And on the second floor were 3 bedrooms and a full bathroom, a full basement where Mom could hang her washing in bad weather, and there was a coal bin by the furnace. The back porch housed our ice box, which my dad built. We had a dining booth out there that we ate in the summertime, where we ate in the summertime. Our dining room had a swinging door to the kitchen and a window that looked out into the backyard. There were 3 windows above the buffet, and they looked across the neighbor's driveway into the 3 windows above their kitchen sink. It was at these windows that our neighbor, a Mr. Perry Anderson, used to tap to get our attention at supper time. He entertained my sister and me with outlandish grimaces and funny faces. And as the story unfolds, you'll meet one of the most unforgettable characters, and I mean characters, in my life. Perry and Blanche Anderson were my neighbors, and I, as a child, never call them I never called them anything other than Mr. and Mrs. Anderson when I addressed them. But in the privacy of our home, it was Perry and Blanche, and for brevity's sake, I refer to them as Perry and Blanche in my story. They were both born in Bluffton, Ohio, about 15 miles from Lima. Bluffton was known for its Mennonite college, which is still growing strong today. After college, Perry attended the College of Law at Ohio Northern. Blanche and Perry married late in life and never had any children. They were the only neighbors I knew to occupy their house in the 17 years that I lived next door. Blanche was a staunch Pentecostal church member, but I never remember seeing Perry go to church. He was, nevertheless, a mild-mannered man and never swore. The only expletive I ever heard him utter if he was aggravated was piffle. I don't think he drank alcohol. His only vice was that he smoked cigars, and Blanche wouldn't let him smoke in the house, so he smoked on the front porch or out in the backyard. Perry had his idiosyncrasies, one of which was to shout, "Oh yeah!"
Oh yeah!
Oh there. Neither Perry nor Blanche drove an automobile. Blanche had a sister who married a banker in town, and she used to come and visit Blanche in a little electric phaeton. Perry's law office was downtown, and he had to walk a couple of blocks to catch the streetcar to go to work. When the electric streetcars were phased out, Perry really had it made because the city bus began to stop right across the street from his house. Perry did mostly deeds and wills and absolutely refused to handle the divorce case. He would have his secretary show clients the door if they even mentioned divorce. Perry's one passion was fishing. Since he had no automobile, he was dependent upon his fishing buddies for transportation. His closest friend, a man named Harry Wright, and his wife, who lived on a farm not far from town. Every couple of years, Perry and friends would take a trip to their favorite place, Lake Mindemoya, on the Manitoulin Island in Lake Huron. Now, back in the 30s, that was a major undertaking. Many were the hours I spent on his front porch, listening to him tell how they would drive up to Mackinac and take a ferry across the Straits of Mackinac to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Then they'd drive on to Sault Ste. Marie. They'd cross over into Canada and head east on Highway 17 to Thessalon. And from there they took a train to Little Current on the Manitoulin Island, where they would be met by horses and wagons for the final trip to Lake Minnemoya and their cottage at Maple Grove Resort. Since Perry didn't furnish a car during the driving, it was his responsibility to provide the night crawlers, or as the Canadians call them, the dew-worms. And that's where I came into the picture. I was the Andersons' boy in residence. I mowed their lawn with the reel type push mower for 50 cents a week. Perry liked the grass kept short, so when he and I would stalk the lightning fast night crawlers, it would be easier to grab them. He'd water the grass in his front yard, and I'd water the grass in our front yard. And then about 9 o'clock at night, we'd both get on our hands and knees with the flashlight in one hand, grabbing the elusive night crawlers with the other hand. I had trouble titling this piece. I didn't know whether to call it Hunting Night Crawlers for Fun and Profit, or What Do Worms Do at Night? On Sunday afternoons, Perry would whistle for me and my good old Beagle's Queen. Armed with buckets and trowels, we would walk the couple of blocks west to Baxter's Woods. There we would search the north side of all the oak, beech, hickory, and walnut trees for the soft green moss growing there. We'd harvest all the moss we could, place it in buckets, and head for home. At home, Perry would take over. He would sort and grade the moss and add water to it to ensure that it was the worms would be added, so to make sure it would be find a hospitable habitat. Since Perry had no car, his garage was the perfect workplace for him to sort the worms, small, medium, and large, and to discard the sickly-looking ones. He would hold weekly inspections as we would gather more dewworms and prepare them for the long trip. Perry was always searching for easier ways to harvest night crawlers, and here I must digress a bit so that this saga can continue. My mother loved black walnuts, but the hulls on them were quite adherent and tough to get off. So she devised a unique way of cracking the outer hull and removing the walnut. She'd get a large burlap bag, fill it about half full with the nuts in their hulls, flatten them out in a sack, run her car over the sack back and forth. The car wheels just peel the hulls right off the nuts. And then she would put on heavy rubber gloves and pick the walnuts and throw them into a wash tub. She'd fill the tub with water to rinse off the staining walnut juice so as not to get the stain on her hands. She could dispose of the burlap bag with the hulls and finish up by pouring out the rinse water onto the grass in the backyard. And shortly thereafter, the grass would be alive with night crawlers, even in the daytime. The juice apparently irritated them, and out they came. Of course, this happened in the fall and was of no benefit to Perry, but we did tell and show him the results. He filled several mason jars with the juice from some of his own subsequent washings and saved them in his basement. The next summer, Perry got out his walnut juice and poured a couple of jars into it in the middle of his front yard. Nothing happened. The next day when he awakened, there was a huge brown area of dead grass in the middle of the yard. He hadn't diluted the walnut juice as much as we had, and it killed his grass. He couldn't get grass to grow there for a couple of years. The next thing Perry did to try to get the night crawlers to come out was a miserable failure, too. Someone had given him a surefire worm extractor. It was a long electric cord with a male plug on one end to insert it into an electric socket. At the other end, the cord split into two separate wires, each with a wooden insulating handle and a long stiff wire probe. The idea was to wet the grass in yard, then insert the probes into the turf about 2 or 3 feet apart, and then plug in the electric outlet. Perry had given the electric plug to Blanche and told her not to plug it in until she heard him holler. I came up just as Perry had picked up the probes and was preparing to stick them into the turf. I asked Perry if he was trying something new, and he gave out one of his,
Oh, yeah.
Blanche thought that was her signal, so she plugged that cord into the socket. About that time, Perry inadvertently touched the two probes together, and there was a blinding flash, and all the lights in the Anderson house went off. Well, the payoff for me was always when Perry would get home from his fishing trip. In the evenings after supper, Perry would hold court on his front porch where I sat on the swing. Between puffs on his cigar, he would hold me in fascination with tale after tale of the walleyes, jumbo perch, whitefish, and northern pike that had been caught. He'd tell of the storms that drove them off the water and of the mosquitoes. I always hoped that I could get invited on one of these trips, but it never happened. But at least I learned what dew-worms do at night. And I made 50 cents a week mowing Perry's grass.
We wanted to just thank Mom for reading, of course.